Yeah. Well,
So it's on your end.
so I'll figure that out later. But I guess we are recording.
Yeah, man.
There we go. Now we're live.
So,
All right. So what were you saying, Joe? The beginning of
yeah, Joe. Please,
I didn't get
let's
to
kind of
watch
get back
any
into
of
that.
the clips.
I didn't watch every episode yet, but the episodes I have watched have been like filled with little nuggets of gold. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant.
And just to bring the credit of Mr. McMahon, right? We're talking Mr. McMahon on
Mr.
Netflix.
McMahon
documentary.
You know, obviously they kind of started with McMahon, and then they're just showing. It's just the first few minutes of the first episode. And they're just kind of showing everybody sitting down for their interview. They show Bret Hart sit down. They show Triple H, Steph, Shane, Dave Meltzer,
Hogan.
Handful of. Then they show Hogan sitting down, and like I don't know why he's the only one doing it, but he's trying to get his hair ready, and he's got the tiniest little like women's makeup compact mirror, you know, and it's probably no more than like 2 inches big.
It's got a handle on it. It's got a handle,
and he's got and he's holding it, and he's like, and he's just like flicking his little hairs in the back.
He's such a stupid bitch. Like he really is.
You know, and it's like what are you doing? I like
what a stupid bitch. Like
it just that was the first like few minutes, and I'm like, this is gonna be good.
Doesn't he wear extensions? Doesn't that stupid?
Yeah.
What a dumb bitch.
He's got to.
And you can tell,
no way
you can tell they're
real.
they're extensions because they're way too perfect.
This was my baby hair. What are you talking
perfectly
about?
Yeah.
fucking moron.
Like
He's
perfect
baby hair.
cuts and-
The only one. Of course he's the only one. Of course he is. What the fuck? Well, like, why did I think anything else? Like the
everyone else is kind of like getting their microphone.
That's why
ready.
he's
I
the
know why
goat,
that
right?
triggered me
He's
so
the only
much.
one?
Like it's the funniest thing I've ever heard, but it just triggered
There
the
it is,
shit
too.
out of me. Like, fuck, I hate him.
Yeah, brother.
He's such a
you don't.
bitch.
Oh, that's
He's like, you don't hate
fantastic.
me, brother.
So,
You don't hate me, brother.
I mean,
Wait,
and then he just goes on to like be filled with all kinds of like like the same stories of like, well, we didn't know what Andre was going to do, brother. Like even day
God.
off, I didn't know. I didn't even
Like,
know.
you know what? You know what makes me. Go ahead.
No. Just like Vince, kind of. He doesn't necessarily say he didn't know. He just said like Hogan kept coming, or that he was like, Andre's going to do the right thing, man. Like, you just don't worry about it. Like, he's going to do it.
yeah.
Which means Vince
This is
did
all with
know
money.
that he knew.
Yeah.
Like Andre was going to do what Vince
I don't
told
care.
him to do. Like that's
If you may have
everyone
been
says
here
that Andre's
and
the
you
boss,
think
and
that
that's
you
why
know better
McMahon
than me,
backs
but you
that up,
don't.
Because with everybody else, Andre probably was, but no. Even Andre knew Vince McMahon was the boss. Like he knew it. Like, you can't convince me otherwise. Like Vince was totally in charge.
The payoff that Vince was going to give him if he didn't do business, Vince wouldn't pay him. Like he didn't pay him.
Yeah,
Up
and what's
front.
amazing, to this day that Vince still sells it. Which I don't want to, I know we all feel funny
he did
about
on
Vince,
the doc too. He
but
did on
it's
the documentary
amazing
as well.
that to this day he still fucking respects Andre and his legacy, and he always puts Andre over. It's like I wasn't anybody, he was, and I was like, oh, like that's cool of you to say. Like all these years later, like he still
You can't make
respects
him
Andre.
do
which is
anything.
pretty
He's
crazy.
a giant. That's what he said on the doc.
Yeah.
You can't make him do anything. He's a giant. I'm like, okay.
Because he saved him.
the
Like
way-
his dad, like Vince was aggressive, and he bought his dad out, and pretty much pushed his fucking dad out. Like
He did what he had to do to get rid of him, remember?
So, but his dad,
he did.
knowing that that's the way kings
Now we know.
fall, that someone who's strong enough to kick you off your throne, that's the guy who should take it. And it happened to be his son. And so he knew that Vince did what he needed to do. He forced me out. So he was like Monsoon, Arnold Skolland, and Andre, and maybe Patterson, but I don't remember when Patterson came into it. Those three seniors said, protect him. He's a genius, but he's going to get himself fucked up, like because he's just running through the territories, and I don't know, man. If someone gets a hold of him, like people take the shit seriously,
And
So when Vince was burning the territories down, like people fucking hated Vince and wanted to
Oh,
get
of
him.
course.
Like they
Right.
were like, no, beat the shit out of him. Like yeah, I mean they would do it. So Vince Senior was smart enough to go like, look, like watch him, please. And those three, and then Patterson was like the creative genius. They made Vince, like they fucking saved him. Like they guarded Vince from all angles to let Vince mature into the Vince that became. Once Andre died, and you know what I mean. Like he had to
Sure.
be the guy, and it's crazy. It kind of gives me goosebumps. Like that training, that Senior had the foresight to be like, I need to leave them with you. Like they could have gone. Like he could have said like, hey Patterson, go start your own promotion and compete against him. You know what I mean? Like he could have done
he
anything.
didn't do
Like.
that.
But he didn't do that. He's like, no, you need these people. Like Vince needs you, and so they did it. Like it's kind of crazy. Like
Well, interesting story to that too, Jess. You talked about how only Vince can push his dad out. I thought the most compelling story that I had never heard before, maybe you guys had, was the one that Paul Heyman
No,
told.
never heard that before.
in the
I've never
doc.
heard that. I
Yeah,
never heard of
that's
that
pretty
either.
crazy.
So this story's fucking.
Oh, I just saw a
fantastic.
clip. I just saw a clip of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so basically, I'm hoping to do it justice, but Paul Heyman discusses Shane and Vince McMahon discussing a promo that Shane is very passionate about, and Vince is eating, and he has a steak and knife. He's like, I'm alive.
I'm not. He's just fucking making
And
eating
then,
noises.
But Shane will not let it go, and Vince basically opens up his button on his shirt, exposes his heart, gives him the knife, and says,
It's all like right there. It's all mad.
You're
Vince
gonna
McMahon.
you're gonna have to fucking kill me to get that promo to run.
You have to stab
And he's
me
like-
to death.
He's like, do it, fucking do it. And Paul's in the room when this is all happening. He's like, what is
Yeah,
going
and then
on?
he said, by the way, if you don't have the guts to do it, I got to
Yes.
think twice about that too.
Yeah.
Like that you don't have the balls
I
to
have
do it.
to,
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
can't do it, I have to take that into consideration
Yeah.
as well.
Or
Buy
buy
me
me
out
out like I did my dad. And he basically lined
or
out
you
to
can
Shane.
buy me out.
Yeah, and then
Right.
and he said, "Do what I would have done to my dad when he refused to do things my way." And I was like, "Oh my!" It's like
if he
fucking
did.
Vader and it's Vader and fucking Skywalker. Like it's
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
You must
Vince said,
strike me down.
because eventually his dad gave in and took off.
Fucking
His dad bailed.
Imagine
ridiculous.
when-
Like
What if like
just life in Star Wars.
Well, I think-
you strike me down.
he is
I
Darth
think
Vader?
Give it to your anger.
Imagine
I
if
feel
Paul
like,
Heyman
I
left
feel
and
like
Vince
Vince
was like,
Senior-
and that's how I got the part in the Broadway show. He was just reciting.
Well, I think Vince
fucking
Senior
scene.
finally realized at a certain point he saw what Vince was doing.
Wow.
He was like, "Holy shit, he's doing it.
That's
He's
how I landed
doing
that role
what
on
we
Broadway."
probably should have done a long time ago." Guys got a vision. Guy's brilliant. You know,
He's doing things
And
I
because
never
it-
would have done.
Dude,
he's
yeah,
doing
like-
things I would never have done.
Yeah.
Everything. If any,
But, you know,
if this
but
is
he's like,
you know,
the
if
young
everything's
takes over
true,
the
he's a
old.
dick.
That's what happens.
yeah.
I mean, even more
If
so, that
everything's
makes him
true,
more
it's a
fucking
dick. But
ruthless
like,
now.
it's
Like,
it really is like to kind of see
Crazy.
this. I know a lot of people are criticizing it, saying like you don't learn anything new, but I don't think like real wrestling fans like us, and I do not mean that to sound fucking pretentious or anything like that. Like real wrestling fans like us, the Hogan combing his hair like a bitch, like that's way more interesting because like I love that.
It is.
And there
Yeah.
are
Then the
probably
first three
little,
episodes. Then the whole
Yeah,
first
like-
three, because
Yeah,
we
brother.
knew
Everybody
everything
wants
from the first
more
three episodes.
dirt. Everybody
There you
wants
go,
more
brother.
dirt on Vince. I'm like, Vince isn't going to talk specifically about why he booked Dino Bravo to beat, so and so that
No.
night. He's not going to fucking remember that stuff. But like, Vince will drop nuggets like he did on Pat McAfee that he's not even trying to make it a big deal. And I'm like,
That
like
was
when he says it, I'm
huge.
like, that was cool. Like that was really fucking
Yeah.
The
cool.
whole
So
Stone Cold story that he told about, I'm thinking about hitting your head with that pan. He's like, well, then do it. And like the fact they had that conversation was like to us, like that blew our minds. Like that was.
he's also a
he's
major
a-
like. When the clips
Yeah.
that I saw, he's also a major like he's like a Muppet of himself. Like he just is propped up on the fucking thing and like he oversells everything. Like even when he talks, he's like, they try to dig the crap upon you. And I was like, are you acting right now, you dick? Like, what are you doing? Like,
no, I don't think
this
so.
But he's not,
But-
and he wasn't entirely
That's the
wrong
thing,
about
he's-
that. When
you-
people see a chink in the armor, they're all gonna come running to you, and then the vulture started to circle. I mean, he's
fucking
not.
vultures.
There's a
Did
reason
you
why
just hear that fucking
everything
Paul Heyman
came
story?
out.
Did you hear that?
Well, but
You think he's
what's sad
acting?
now is that the vultures
I'm
are
telling you.
circling, and like
the jungle,
and like
is, yeah.
the vultures are circling now. Like to listen to at least the first couple episodes of that, like people are. I'm sure it gets worse, but like people are already starting to take their shots. Like Bret Hart just taking shot after shot, and Bret Hart, goddamn, what an amazing wrestler. The guy is so. I mean, even to this day, it's
He
pretentious.
needs to
as
shut the fuck up.
Like
though.
he's like,
Oh, he's
like,
so bitter.
What we did? I was an artist. I was an artist.
he
in
needs
that
to
ring.
shut the
nobody,
fuck
nobody
up.
Could, nobody could do what I did.
There was
So,
nobody
you know-
better than me. There was
Nobody was
than me.
better than me.
I'm gonna make
was
a
better
joke
than
right now, but
everybody.
I'm not making jokes of head injuries. But also, I didn't see this comment in context. But Steve Austin said it. I just saw the quote, so maybe they took it out of context. I don't know if he meant that he doesn't really believe in the CTE thing, and
He
that,
said that.
yeah. And I was like, well, have you heard Bret Hart talk lately? Like he just is so angry and just starts saying crazy things like, I'm an artist.
Undertaker.
Like, fucking,
Undertaker
whoa,
had
like,
a weird
I'm an
comment
artist.
too on it, where he's like,
didn't
if you're
understand
if you're getting a bunch of concussions, you're probably doing something wrong. I'm like, well, Undertaker, you're 320 pounds. You're not.
That's a
Yeah,
lie
You're not getting
too.
tossed
Yeah.
around either.
That's a bullshit
You're not,
statement
you're not
too.
taking
Like,
those kind of bumps. You're not taking
Yeah,
those.
Yes.
there were some things in there where I was like, really? And you guys let that ride? But I also think they did it to try to show how wrestlers kind of like just don't believe in it. because they had Chris Nowinski on there that described it in great detail about CT.
Yeah.
Which is really funny because I don't know if it was an interview that Vince didn't do an interview after where he fucking questioned like Undertaker said I got a concussion during the Brock Lesnar match, and then Vince is like, no, he didn't. Like he didn't. He was just in shock. I was like, from hitting his head. Like they're all in denial about it. Like Steve Austin. Steve Austin really believes that the only time he's ever gotten a concussion was when Owen accidentally dropped him on his head. He really fucking believes that. Steve Austin, really? Like, you've never been knocked out before. Shut the fuck up. They're all weird. Like, they're all no.
You never landed wrong and saw
he's
stars.
Stone and he's cold. He doesn't get concussions. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right, Joe. Yeah, but the thing that just kind of took on what the doc was, and I think this is why this is so incredible, and it's going to light up. It's probably going to be as big as Tiger King, if not more, because the casuals that are now watching wrestling, they don't know anything about this stuff.
Yeah, so they're gonna be
no idea.
Fuck is this shit?
And the way even the way they talk about it, they talk about what a heel is. They talk about heat. They describe it. We all get it. Like you don't have to describe. So when they describe what it is, and they even bring on analysts to talk about heel heat and storyline and how it works, I was like, oh. This was never intended for us at all. Like I only learned like 2 new things out of the whole doc out of 6 episodes, by the way, just so you know. And one of those was that Shane conversation, which I thought was fucking amazing. I knew nothing about that.
Every fucking clip I saw,
but for casuals.
If they wanted a comedy break, they fucking cut to a Tony Atlas comment, which was fucking hilarious. Like
he got so much fucking.
He would negate any clip that they were playing, and then they abruptly cut to him. He negated whatever scene that they were trying to get across. He's like, I think that really happened. I'm like, fucking Tony Atlas. Like, what are you doing right? And he was just happy as punch to be there. By the way, like, and get attention after all these years.
Yeah.
And like,
he's like, you want
money grab.
You want to talk to me?
Yeah. I'll be there. He probably camped out like the entire time they rented the studio. He was sleeping there and like didn't leave. Like he was probably just.
Of all the people they talked to, he was the one that would.
Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
No. I was just gonna say of all the people that they talked to, he was the one that seemed out of place. It was like, why the fuck are they talking to Tony Atlas?
It's kind of random.
Oh, like I don't get that.
With this fucking muscle dress shirt.
He was fun.
In a muscle dress shirt and a tie.
He had a tie on.
Fucking ridiculous.
I loved it. I was like, bro, what are you doing?
You still got good looking guns, dude. I guess you just gotta fucking never.
It was fantastic to cut from like to Joe's point, to cut to Hogan doing this shit.
Yeah, brother.
And then it cuts to Tony Atlas. You're like,
Tony
Atlas
just
couldn't be
acting like they just recorded him and he had no idea they were going to be there. Like bullshit. Like he's all
Hogan,
overdressed. Like he's like, me? I didn't even know we were doing this interview this day. I'm like, you totally did.
Yeah.
Oh,
you've been waiting for it.
I always dress like this.
And I think the most disappointing to all of us that are the non-casual, so to speak, was we didn't get much of anything after 2021. And then when the first allegations came down, Vince halted all the interviews. He just canceled them all. So you didn't hear anything about anything else.
So when you put everything together like that, listen.
You wouldn't.
Go
ahead, Joe.
No, go ahead.
Like if you put everything together, I think Joe's on a delay. That's why that's happening.
Yeah, I think so.
Or I'm on a delay either way. I think if you look at it from beginning to end, like this was just easier to bury in the 90s. Like he was doing everything that he was doing when he got caught. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's so crazy. And then when they went public,
pass everything around easily, you know?
Yeah, well, and when he went public
or something, or
when he went public and kind of shifted the momentum of the company to the shareholders and everything, he was it created a wall almost for him. Yeah. Like he was just ignored like after that. Like not like he was still doing great things for wrestling and advancing, but like you didn't really hear about him after he left as a Mr. McMahon character. You didn't hear shit about Vince. Like just that he rewrote the show all the time and he was old man out of touch. That's all we heard like for the longest time. And then all this shit comes out. It's like, what the fuck? It's kind of crazy.
Looks like shit. Yeah. That's what he's gonna do.
That's what was happening.
I mean that story about him, you know, what he told to Shane, that shit's crazy. It kind of shows you, I don't know, I guess maybe how evil he really is. Like I remember reading a story of someone that used to work there, and like it was the end of the, you know, they're leaving the office or whatever, and like Vince was leaving at the same time, and Vince got in his car. He got in his car. I forgot if he was like a rider or something. I forget. But he said he starts driving off, and then he sees Vince's car fucking coming up on him, speeding really fast. And then he kind of like, you know, goes the same speed as him and pulls up next to him, like challenging him to a race. And then like the guy's like, what the fuck? He's like, I'm not gonna try to race. Like, what the fuck? Like, Vince is in a
Fantastic.
Maserati and shit. And then
Vince.
he said Vince
Vince,
literally
like-
tried running him off the road, and then he like looked at him and laughed, and then just fucking sped off. Like, Vince is fucking crazy.
He's crazy.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
But
Can
Vince
you
is-
imagine like when he's by himself?
Yeah,
Like,
live once, bro.
the
I
fun-
don't know. He's fucking.
The funny thing about Vince is that like everyone wants to like write him in this light, and he probably was in that light to a certain extent. But he's no different than like every other like Fortune 500 company owner who built the company from scratch. Whether it's Steve Jobs or whether it was guys like these captains of industries. There's huge stories about Steve Jobs being just an absolute piece of shit to everyone every day of his whole life. Jack Welch, and a variety of other like CEOs and people that built their company for either improve their company
You gotta be that way, yeah.
that you have to be ruthless. Like, and Vince says that he's like, I didn't give a fuck about these other guys. All I cared about was my business. And like, you're telling me that I'm not supposed to compete? No, I'm going to compete, and I'm going to do what I think is best. And like, I'm just going to like.
But the minute they get attacked, it's all woe is me and my little company and blah blah blah. Yeah.
Oh God, he always has that fucking complex. What a fucker! Like, yeah, when Bischoff started firing shots, he's like, right, 30 tricks, like, and he's just fucking shut up. And then yeah, when he wants to be a small mom and pop owned company, it's super convenient. He was always crying that shit when Bischoff. I mean, Ted's a big billionaire, and I'm just a little mom and pop business owner. I'm like, oh, shut up! Like, you ruled in the '80s, you fuck. You cut so many people's
multi-million-dollar organization. In
you
the
cut
90s,
so many people's legs off at the knees in the '80s. Like, you fucker, shut up!
It's like because
you bought everybody out. You
like he didn't have a good childhood. It's almost like he wants people to be mommy and daddy to him too at the same time. Like, make everything
feel
better.
Sorry for me.
Like,
someone yelled at me.
Yeah, someone yelled.
Bischoff said, "Run my results." Yeah, I know. You did the same thing in a different way, like in the '80s.
Yeah. Do you want it cut up? Do you want us to cut it in pieces?
Why is that? Yeah. Why is that funny?
Someone's always there.
Someone's always going to cut it into little small cubes so you can eat it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's so true. It's like the Stark. Yeah, he's a fucking dick to everybody else, but the second someone's mean to him, he's.
Oh, then there was part once they got to WrestleMania 3. There was a part about Meltzer, and he's like,
"Oh, Meltzer."
Even Meltzer had to take shots where he's like, actually, it wasn't 93,000. It was actually only
Meltzer
78,000.
hates Vince McMahon.
Like,
he hates him.
The best, but
you're like, dude, shut the fuck up, man.
But the best part of it was. Another analyst came in. I think it was one of their dirt sheets. I can't remember which one, but he's like, we're never really gonna know the answer, but it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Like, look what it did. Look how much money it drove in, and look at what happened after.
It does.
Like,
I know, Dave. I see what you're saying, and I 1,000% agree that was a momentum behind it. But like at the same time, like if you allow him to do that, he'll do more. And Vince tries to lie all the time. He always lied about his business. He always lied.
Lie about attendance. Lied about everything. Pay-per-view, they lie about it.
So it's like
about it.
In a weird way, I know Meltzer rubs all of us the wrong way somehow in one way, shape, or form. But I love that he fucking attacks.
I thought it was just
love. To this day, like I love that he goes after Vince. He's like, actually, no, he's a fucking liar. Actually, no, he's a fucking dork. Actually, no. Like, and I'm like, damn, that's the only thing that keeps Meltzer going. I think if Vince ever goes, and he'll die eventually. Like Meltzer is going to be so lonely. I bet he'll like die like right after Vince. Like
both their caskets next to each other, both their tombstones.
Yeah, like seriously, like when the one spouse dies, the other one dies like shortly after, like out of like loneliness or whatever. I'm like, Vince is his only driving force. Like, how many times can Meltzer talk about the Donahue show and I was sitting right next to Vince with my ridiculous mullet and like the whole he just lives it every day. Actually, Andre was slammed 8 times before WrestleMania 3. Like he's fucking chipper when he talks about it. Like today we listened to him stammering on his podcast.
Andre lost hundreds of times. Like
you ask him about Vince in the You ask him about Vince in the 80s, like he speaks the clearest I've ever heard him. He's like, actually, Vince, you dickhole. I think like he's just completely like with it and everything. You listen to his podcast now, he's like, Tony Khan. And he's all over himself. But like, hey, what do you think about Vince McMahon? Well, young man, do you have a couple hours? Like, and he's just ready to fucking go. Like, it's so hilarious to see that. He's
subscription money?
Vince charge.
He's gonna, they're gonna be buried next to each other.
Dirty dirt sheets.
Can you imagine the stories that come out when Meltzer dies? And even after in his death, he's going to wish he had an opinion. Like, you're going to see his tombstone. It's just going to be...
he's still going to argue
writing stories about him after he dies.
He's going to haunt people. He's gonna haunt people like Bruce Pritchard and be like, there's 78,000. You could have just said that. It would have been just as impressive, but you guys didn't. You guys kept pushing 93 now. Now you have to lie all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he haunts Bishop.
He's all,
Bishop's all, damn it. Like,
damn it.
Oh, Bishop, how you doing? That must suck. You guys were so successful, and then all of a sudden you took a shit. What happened in 1999? Why'd you suck? Like all so.
Who was the guy that you should have listened to when you called him all the time?
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it. I've just seen clips of it or whatever, like the important stuff that has been talking points this whole week, and but that's fucking hilarious. Like,
there's also one thing that I
looking forward to watching the rest of it.
Yeah, you'll enjoy it, but I think there's going to be things that you expect that aren't there because there's just not like there was most of the interviews were done before 2022 was out, so you're not going to see a lot. But one of the things I vehemently disagree with was one of the other dirt sheet writers was talking about how the era that they're in today is successful. It's not as successful as the Monday Night Wars and post Monday Night Wars, but it's in the Attitude Era. But it's pretty successful. And I was like, no.
What era?
He's saying the era of today, of right now.
I don't know.
It's doing very, very well.
Like,
but it's not. It doesn't come to the realm of the Wars in the Attitude Era. I was like, you don't know what you're talking about because I don't. I mean,
it was more on fire back then. I guess but.
It's more mainstream than it's ever been. It's more. It's generated way more revenue.
Cuz said something months ago because I was denying that we were in a boom period. Like 2 years ago. Cuz it's like no. Cuz and Craig were like it just looks different. Like it's not the boom period that we recognized both times when we got into the 80s and then what we relived in the 80s. It's different. It's not from competition. Different. I mean, it is kind of, but not like AEW was never as close to being as big as WCW ever was. Like WCW, even at their best, compared to Vince's legacy, is a tiny little star.
Oh yeah.
Like, and Vince is a massive universe. Giant sun. Like it's like it's crazy. Like but it's crazy about how the perception. It's like people perceived there to be a kind of a threat and the product was stale and that's when it was weak and that's why AEW took advantage. And it could have been almost anybody that was fresh and new. Like as wrestling fans, we just didn't want a rehash of anything. So when AEW came along, it was like, holy shit, it's brand new. They're starting their own legacy. This is fun. And WWF sucks. So like let's do this. Like, and then it got cool and that was the kryptonite. And I think I was like, yeah, the second Triple H started doing things that made sense and slowed the product storytelling down and didn't 50-50 book, I was like, man, this is it. Like AEW is going to take a big ass hit because people act. It's like they love WWE, but they act like they hate it when it's bad. They're like, I hate that fucking play. I'm never going back. And then the second it gets cool again, it's like, can I come back in? And WWE's like, absolutely. Okay. And they come in and
take your money today.
Most people are like that. There's a small people that won't, but.
There's a few people at the end of the pod because like I said it was 2022, like Triple H hadn't even really come in full time yet to take over creative, and Hogan was a big one of them. They said well, what happens to WWE if Vince leaves? He's like I don't think it survives, and I'm like you're wrong. You are so wrong.
Of course he's wrong. Like it doesn't. Everything that Hogan says is wrong all the time.
Brother.
I know it's wrong or a lie or both. But there were people out there that they did not put their chips on Triple H whatsoever. They're like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm a little concerned.
Hogan's also a guy that thought the WWE wouldn't succeed without him. So I'm sure that he probably said the same thing. He's like, oh, when I leave, like it's not.
And he thought for sure he was going to kill him in the Monday Night Wars too. Like he thought Hogan thought he was going to kill him.
It's funny that Triple H fought for the Performance Center and all that stuff, and he fought for NXT. But he purposely booked it to he destroyed it. And that showed me that he was ready. Like he booked the Black and Gold just like he would book the main roster.
Oh, yeah.
Like he hired all the top indie stars, any big star like Shinsuke from Japan. He hired everybody. Adam Cole, Roderick Strong. Like he brought everybody in. Like Bobby Roode when Bobby Roode was free. Like he brought everybody in and he booked them. Just all of it was great. He started the women's fucking revolution. It started with NXT.
Oh, yeah.
And then they got to the main roster and then they demanded more time. But that Charlotte and Bayley and Sasha and all that that and even Neidhart, Natty when she came down there, that was really cool.
Her and Charlotte had some
they
bangers.
all were like, yeah, man, seeing that and seeing Paige for the first time and all of that was so revolutionary. I knew then that Triple H would. So when Vince got taken off completely, I was like, Triple H is going to be more than fine. Like I was always confident in him, just because I had a feeling, not because I knew anything more. I just was like, look what he did with the black and gold.
Oh, you were there with him.
We had seen the product.
That's right
We'd seen
there.
the product that he's worked with.
Well, but not even that. He made it so big on purpose. It kind of outshined those takeover weekends were better than the fucking WWF pay-per-view that it was mirroring.
Yeah,
and it bothered Vince. And Vince fucking axed it because Vince was okay. You're done. You're not doing NXT anymore. Like because he couldn't fucking take it. Vince was
and then
right.
He made it rainbow colors, and then every talent he brought up, he destroyed them. He would tear them down.
Vince was right to a certain extent because Triple H was booking them not to. Triple H was booking NXT as its own division or its like own company, not as a developmental program for the main roster. You know, and so like
right. That's why Vince was right technically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, he's like, I'm doing all this money. You're supposed to.
I'm glad we got all those great takeovers.
They're not ready. But
that's fine.
I'm going to do the exact same thing with them and squash them the second they come up. Yeah. But still, you're not doing it my way.
But still,
that shit was pretty good. Though.
I mean, if the Shanes, you know, if like the stories are true, like if it wasn't his way, then it wasn't going to happen. You know?
And it wasn't going to be like a cowboy Wild Wild West like it was with Vince and his dad and what he was trying to egg out of Shane. Like it was like the way it happened now was all in the courts, which is very 2024, and it was just like this is a publicly traded company and you're making the brand look bad, and that's fucking the worst way for Vince to go out. Vince wanted, I think, to be dethroned. He wanted someone to give it to the hate. Like he wanted it so bad, and then like, but it was taken away from him. Like
he wanted Triple H to kill him with the sledgehammer.
Yeah, he grew this massive like empire, and then he watched it just float away from him, like Winston floating away from Tom Hanks. Like it just, he was like, "Fuck!" Like that's how this is going to end. No one's going to violently take my power. Like it's just he's defeated from that. I mean, he's a workaholic, but like I think that breaks his heart more than anything. Is the fact that he's like, it just wasn't there one day. Someone else called me and said, "You're gone," and he's like, "I'm the fucking
the board
Vince
just
McMahon."
Said, no.
Like, yeah, and he's like, "No, the board said you're gone." Like, it's crazy.
He
like,
should have went private.
He just, all right, like there was no ceremoniously. It's so fitting in a weird way. It's like he never got what he wanted. Everything else he did great. He grew this wrestling. This fucking
What's funny is like
promotion into
anybody else
empire.
Anybody else has said $2 billion scot free once I pay all my taxes and all my penalties. Okay, but that doesn't satisfy him whatsoever.
No, it does not.
That.
It's not about money for him. It's about
he wanted the fight.
Power.
It's about the idea of how much the company is worth and how much he built on it. It wasn't about the money he could spend, the money in his pocket. If that makes any sense, he doesn't care about. He cares about.
I mean, if anything,
company before everything.
His dream did come true to a certain extent. Like
it did.
I mean, he bought the company for $1 million, which was a lot of money.
A lot of money back then. And it was just a territory, by the way. They just did like the New York area and like Jersey. Like they weren't like a national brand.
But it was funny. It was funny to hear Linda's take on it. She's like, we actually just paid the money that we owed. We just used the revenue we were making to pay it off. So it's not like we purchased it with money. We purchased it with money that they were going to get anyways.
Right.
So it was kind of like robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's like, yeah, they gave us. It's not like we just wrote them a check. We gave them some money. We gave them like $100,000, and then 3 months later we had made $300,000 in like revenue. So we just gave them that, and then 3 months later we made $300,000 more, and we gave them that. You know? So it's like
it's fantastic really because like it just tells you how bad business people were in wrestling. How bad the industry was being run.
Oh yeah, because it was always about, don't get me wrong, it was always about Vince, but Vince, like Joe said, he uses the phrase "my business." Like he always knew what it was. These other promoters I got myself a territory, and they make sure they pay themselves first, and then they make everybody else beg for pennies.
Yeah,
and that's what promoters did. Vince, maybe on a richer scale, he did the same thing, but when he wanted someone, he's like, "I'm going to give you this. Like, you're going to make more money on your figures and merchandise than you ever did, like making there." And someone like Greg Valentine's like, "I'm a heel," and he's like, "You're making a doll of a heel?" He's like, "Yep." Greg Valentine doll, like, and then he sold him, and he's like, "When I got my first royalty check, I shut the fuck up."
Yeah,
like, it's like, wow, like, yeah, they were all holy shit.
But even that business model, Vince got all this top talent, and he didn't have to. He personally didn't have to pay them extra.
Yeah.
He got other things to pay them.
I'm
not going to pay you. You're going to get money from this TV deal. You're going to get money from selling action figures. You're going to get money because we put your picture.
And we're gonna market it like you're not gonna stand out on a table and sell your T-shirts. Like the company's going to get behind you and make, Nature Boy Joe shirts. You know what I mean? Like, but you used to sit out in your little territory in a fucking wooden table, signing autographs, a big line. You don't do that shit anymore. We sell them in magazines. We sell them at stands in the fucking arena. Like, and it's all WWF back. So you're just fucking enjoying.
We put your face on a fucking piece of ice cream. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean,
let's go.
You could even almost argue Vince was doing that ahead of, other sports were doing it, football and baseball were doing it to a certain extent. They had baseball cards but like, it's not like the players got any revenue from that. That like Vince had an idea of like, okay, we're going to sell stuff with your face on it. And I feel like it was again, another innovation that Vince started. It wasn't until like the mid and late 80s that like baseball and football and basketball started doing that as well. We're like, oh, dude, we're gonna make posters. We're gonna make posters of Michael Jordan. We're gonna make posters of Joe Montana.
Real endorsement deals,
like we're gonna sell jerseys. Everybody wants to wear we're gonna sell jerseys with their name on it. This is awesome, like Vince. I feel like kind of started that everybody was selling merch, but I feel like Vince like revolutionized selling merch and like put it on a grander scale.
He also revolutionized the fact that the person's image should be getting more revenue for it than they were.
Well, and then on top of that, your image is going to get you more money, but I'm going to get a portion of that because I own your image.
Right.
And to me, that was even more brilliant. Is like
because I remade a character for you. You're King Harley race, so I own King. Like it's like fuck. Like
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When Conrad always like fawns over this whenever it comes up or whatever. He's like, I know Vince has done like a lot of revolutionary production things and all that stuff, and that's all great. He's like, but my favorite thing that he ever did, that was his idea, was when Matilda got kidnapped or Hogan got injured, when you wrote in letters to them, it was just going on their mailing list so they could fucking mail you a catalog of shit. And so and he was like, I just think that it's so fucking brilliant that all these kids are like, Hogan, I hope you can breathe again, Hogan. And they're sending it in or whatever. And then Vince is like, just send them a fucking catalog now. We got their shit. Like, it's fucking amazing. It's not digital capturing. He made you give him his shit. Like, or your personal shit.
Yeah.
Like, you mailed it in. Like, and you're like, here you go.
Digital capture before there was digital capture. Yeah,
and then Conrad's like, I just can't tell you what an amazingly simple and effective process that is. That he just, and then he disguised it with, holy shit, Matilda's gone, but they got her back, but she's really sick. Like, and it's like, oh my God, what? Like, and the kids are like, I'm so sorry, Matilda.
Come on.
I hope you get Bobby Heenan, bite his face off. Like, and then they just fucking mail in and like, they're just giving Vince all their personal information. He's like, what? They gave it to me. The postage says they mailed it from their homes. I didn't take anything from them. It's fucking nuts. Like, fucking amazing. Conrad to this day is like, God, that's so fucking genius, man. Like, just everything that you think back that Vince had you write to or do whatever, like you were just updating his catalog. That's all you were doing. Fucking awesome.
It's fantastic.
Who knows what other nuggets could be in that documentary?
Yeah.
Can't wait to watch
he had some shit minimum wage employees like that had to physically catalog all that shit, like just because they they put shit in computers.
I wish they'd be talking about some of that stuff. I mean, obviously they want to talk about the dirt.
Of course,
they want to talk about him.
That's what I mean.
Let's have a normal
documentary
about him.
They want to try to make him the Mr. McMahon character, and even like even like episode 2 or 3 or whatever. It's all about the stupid steroid trial, which I still to this day I'm like, I never even when it was going on, I didn't understand why they were like they were pushing this thing that was such a big deal. It's like, if it's fake, if wrestling's fake, then what the fuck do you care if they're doing steroids or not? Like, are you telling me that Schwarzenegger didn't do steroids for Predator or Stallone didn't use steroids to get him that big for Rocky IV? Of course they did. Why was wrestling all of a sudden like? But
you know the answer.
Idea for like what?
Because it's a fucking circus with a bunch of fucking freaks, and nobody likes freaks. And again, and I'm not, I don't agree with that statement, Joe, at all. I'm not trying to be that guy, but that's what everybody thinks that's outside of the circle until casuals come back in, which is, every periodic period.
Yeah, but still, why would the federal government give a shit if wrestlers were taking steroids or not?
Why do people in the federal government care if people get gay married or not? It's none of their business, but they still do. It's ridiculous. I agree with you. I don't understand it. I don't know why they had such a hard on for it. It's the dumbest thing ever. But in hindsight, Joe, to your point, which you're absolutely right, they had nothing on him. They're contractors for one. They're not.
That's
employees.
What Bruce said.
He never told anybody to take steroids.
Bruce said the biggest shock wasn't. Bruce said the biggest shock wasn't Vince getting, innocent and proving his innocence or anything like that. He's like, the biggest shock was the prosecution's argument. They were going to try to get a jury to say Vince was guilty of that just because they wanted to make everybody think Vince was a bad guy. But they're like, no, Vince, you have to prove that Vince made his fucking employees and supplied them with the steroids. That's the whole thing. And they're like, no, we're just going to try to make him look as bad as possible. And then Bruce is like, once our defense realized that that's what they were doing, they're like, we're going to win just sitting here. Like, there's no fucking way that Vince is going to jail. And he wasn't. And the government was legitimately like, we're fucking dumbfounded. I'm like, because you said we're taking him to court for this.
It's the dumbest thing ever.
And then the whole time they're like, what's your evidence that he supplied them with it and he told them, I will fire you if you don't take it? Like, where's the evidence? We don't have any of that. He's just a real dick sometimes. Like, it's like, what? Like, Bruce was like, they were like, what? Like, that's your fucking prosecution? That's insane. You wasted all of everybody's time and taxpayer money. Like, it's crazy.
The worst thing that Vince ever said was,
you said it yesterday, Dave, they ultimately were independent contractors. Contractors, so Vince doesn't have anything to do with them anyways. He can't tell. They are independent. He can't tell them, go do steroids or else. They're making a choice, to do it or not,
He purposely fucking made them choose over money and a comfortable lifestyle or not doing something that they believe they don't want to do. And he's like, I don't know, you make the choice. I'm not going to make you do anything, but no one's going to pay you what I can pay you. And by the way,
the two biggest things that come out of it was Hogan obviously saying, no, he never told me I had to do that. He never. And Tony Atlas was like, I was doing steroids 10 years before I met Vince. It's like, okay.
Yeah, they all were.
He's like, they all were.
That's the
whole
late
point. 70s, early 80s, everybody was doing it.
So Joe, the best answer is that they didn't like him. They didn't like his circus. And they'll find any way to try to kill that circus because they don't understand it. And that to me, when you really say it out loud, is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. It's so stupid. And what's even crazier was, and again, Hogan could be lying his ass off because we know he does this, but he was being threatened on if he didn't tell them what what they wanted to hear. He said I could get like 11 years for stuff I had done, and I was just like, what did you do exactly? That was my first question. But he's like, but the funny thing is like all this time he's like, I killed him. He died 3 days later after I slammed him. I know, we know, but I'm telling you, the prosecution is what puts him on the stand, and they didn't know what he was going to say. I find that insane. Like,
all insane.
Insane. It's like once you're up in a federal, prosecution case, you're up there and you're sworn under oath, and you could do time and you could pay fines. Hogan doesn't want to lose money. Hogan wasn't going to go to jail. He was going to tell the truth. Yeah. And so for the first time in his life, he got out of kayfabe and he told the truth. Vince never told us to take steroids. Never did. Never told us. And he finally, instead of being on steroids, he's like, I took steroids all the time. Yeah, people injected me almost every day. Whereas I took steroids 3 times, brother, on the Arsenio Hall show. Like, it's like, when I was injured, shut the fuck up. You're such a liar.
I am not a steroid abuser, and I do not take steroids.
And God bless Vince McMahon.
It's perfect.
No, I believe that Hogan. I believe there was 3 specific injuries that he was on steroids on, but he was on steroids all the time anyway. Yeah. So he just happened to be on steroids when he got injured.
Help me heal
of course. I believe that. Like, fucking idiot.
That's not abuse.
He's the goat, brother.
That was my hair look. That was my hair look that I lost because I fucking roided up so much.
How did that? Steroids, brother.
Fantastic. But
whacked it off
that's
day,
the one thing. Like Joe, to your point, Joe. I've never understood it in hindsight when you really think about it. Like, that's all you had on Vince is that you didn't like him, and that Hogan was your ace in the hole. Like Hogan's your ace in the hole? What are you talking about?
Oh, they didn't know. The lying legend hadn't grown yet. Like then they thought Hogan was still on the up.
It's not
Like,
even
he
that
never
though. Like
lies.
he didn't lie. He told
Yeah.
the truth for once in his life.
There's two things that I believe that he has legitimately told the truth about. That, and every time they're like, "Did you rat on Ventura whenever he was trying to unionize?"
He's like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah,
fuck yeah, I did." Like those are the two things that I know, like that he's like telling
So
the
funny.
dead truth about. Like he just and like I'm like, yeah, I believe that.
He's gonna cost you money, brother. I was on top. It's gonna cost.
He
you money.
doesn't like Ventura, and Ventura doesn't like him. So he's like, "Oh, I fucked Ventura nice and good." Like he's happy to talk about that. He's like, "I absolutely did."
Right.
And then Ventura's like, "You fucking backstabbed me." Hogan's like, "I did, and I loved it."
Yeah,
like,
I sure did.
He was like, "I was making a fuckload of money. Why the fuck would I want everyone to have equal pay? That makes no sense." Like, and I was like, "Well, you're a dick for saying that, but I mean, any other business person would do that." He's like, "Listen, bro, I'm Hulk Hogan. I'm selling these buildings out, and you want like." Hillbilly and I to make the same. No, we're not doing that. Like, we're not going to share the same base and me get like a $4 an hour overscale. We're not doing that shit. Like, I'm making millions and millions and they're
You want me to make the same as Coco? No, yeah. I don't think so.
I'm making millions and millions and they're happy. They will be happy to make hundreds of thousands. That's exactly what Vince's model was.
And it
That's
was
what
true.
all the top guys.
All true.
Macho Man's like, "Can I just get a lick on the low end of the million?" And they're like, "You're fine.
Can I get the Slim Jim deal, brother?
I don't listen, man. I just want $100 million and $1. That's all I want.
$1.
It's $1 over $1 million. That's all I want. Like, and they're like, "Oh, okay,
you're fine. Give me
the
Slim Jims. I take a lower contract. Give me the Slim Jims, brother."
Yeah, and Hackshaw's like, "Hello," and he's like, "Shut up! You're getting like $300,000." He's like, "Thanks, tough guy," and he leaves. I'm like, "Freaking Hacksaw."
Well, yeah, but
he went looking for her again.
Fine with it.
But again, like even if you were making, let's say these guys were making, I don't know, like 80 grand a year, like in 85.
Like, a lot of money.
Like that. First of all, that was a lot of money in 85. Second of all, Ricky Steamboat talks
about if you take their travel,
then you got like
it's not
that on one quarter, like in like 1987 or something, he got a $25,000 check for fucking his merch sales, and it's like, dude, that's
like pink.
That's really good. 25 grand in 1987 for 3 months worth of work, which you didn't work. Like you just got.
It's on the side of your base contract. Like like you're getting this on top of your whatever your base contract is.
Just sold a bunch of fucking 2x4s, bro. It's amazing. Went to Home Depot, painted them all fucking red, and blue, and fucking sold those things.
And some of it was just like, this is my check from Hasbro. Thank you.
And a lot of people ask, like, why do athletes that tour the world or like wrestlers, why would they get married and stay married? I'm like, well, some of them did because they legitimately love the person they got married. But then when you're out on the road and you're a star, like it's easy. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's easy to, cheat and do whatever. But they didn't just divorce their wives because they're getting my checks. They're budgeting for me. I would blow it all right now. So like some of them just begrudgingly stayed married because they're like, they fucking save money. Like, I'm going to need it, but all the ones that didn't are just like broke as shit. Like, cause they just spent all of their money. Like, while I'm on the road, I'm going to have fun. Right?
Another great reason for the women's division. Now wrestlers just marry each other and everything's fine. It's all good.
Yeah. Like that's why a lot of them just didn't divorce their wife. Why keep a wife in a secret? Why not just be free? I'm like, because they need someone to budget for them. Like they need someone to get the money and have a purpose no, we need to save money because, remember your kids? Oh yeah. I've gone so much. I forgot I had them. Like, so it's like, yeah. So that's why they need some kind of rock, like in reality for like an anchor.
And Jesse, you got me on a point that I thought about during the doc.
We're into sucked at finances, bro.
I always want to know, and that is so not true. God, thank goodness my wife handles my finances. But anyway, to your point, I always wonder, because Vince has admitted, like, yeah, I had sex. It was consensual. And it was, I'm like, but no one goes, but you're married. Though.
And it was busy. She was writing contracts. I don't
know. But like, I want to hear the real about those kind of things. At the end of the day, it's like Linda's like, look, we're married, but we don't do that. That's not who we are. We're married and we're a team, and that's fine. I want to hear like a House of Cards kind of statement, Joe. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I want to hear like, yeah, we're a team and we're number one and we can't be divided. We're Bill and Hillary, but better. Like, there's nothing you can do that's going to take us apart, but we don't do that crap. That's his stuff. I go and help. I go and do the small business administration on the Trump team. That's what I do. because I'm badass. Like, this is how we roll. I just want to hear the story.
I wonder when they stop
with it.
I wonder when they stop sharing a
Linda's just
bed.
like Linda, like
from Ozark.
80, 85. 85. 85.
85. I think 85 they were done.
Yeah.
Right, Joe.
They stopped sharing a bed. And you're saying in
I mean,
85 they
87
stopped.
at the latest.
But he got favorite girls, and he's like, "Get
I
out!"
think so.
Get the fuck out of my bed.
Get out of bed. Go
I
sit on
think
the couch.
she said, "Get out." We're not. Get out. He's like, "Where do you want me to go?" She's like, "I don't know, but you can't stay here."
He's in his pajamas, right, one night, and then
she says, "No, I don't want a divorce. There's too much money. I love it too much, but this ain't happening no more."
Yeah.
No more
There was one. I want to know. There had to have been one
Well-
night where he's in his pajamas and he's getting into bed, and she comes out of the bathroom, has got a nightgown on, moisturizer, all that stuff. Just a total normal couple getting in bed, and she's like,
Like
"Oh, by the way,
Soprano action.
I forgot to tell you, WrestleMania 1 is a massive success." He's all, "Get the fuck out!" Like right when she told him that. Like I know there has to be that. Like because if he had that
That'd
real
be that
moment with
moment.
Shane, there's no way every moment in Vince's life isn't ridiculous. Like
yeah.
I want to believe that, and I need that
It
in
is.
my life. Of every every
They- I
wish they had
fucking
cameras
private talk
rolling
is stupid.
There
Like,
was
I've
no
always-
life since he took
I've
over.
always I've always said that, like with like some of these big like athletes like Jordan or Tiger Woods or whoever that had like these huge massive affairs and they got caught or whatever. It's like, why not just have that conversation with your wife? Listen, like go to him and be like, "Listen, I'm Tiger Woods, y'all. I'm gonna be hooking up with some chicks. Like, I love you. I love our marriage. You're gonna have a fantastic life. You can buy whatever you want. Hell, even you can even fuck the gardener every so often, or the pool guy, whatever. I don't care. But I'm gonna be hooking up with every skank that I see out there, and that's just what's gonna happen. Are you on board?" Vince had to have had that kind of conversation. It's like, listen,
well, yeah,
you're gonna have a great life. Like
kind of money that
you're
they're
gonna have-
dealing with, like
the kind of money that we're gonna have, whatever. But I have to be satisfied in a certain way. So I just need you to know that.
You know how
wanna-
gross I am.
Yeah, like you want to go out, like I'm gonna be banging, like the little 20-year-old referee the lady referee. I'm gonna bang her. I'm gonna bang the whole women's division. I'm gonna shit on everybody's chests and faces and whatever. It's gonna be disgusting. If you can go do whatever you want, but this is what's gonna happen. And it's like, I mean, even to this day, it's not like they're divorced. They're not even divorced now. Like,
They're not even divorced.
scandal. Like, it's not like they're divorced. Like, she's like, no, we're in it to win it.
That
It's
whole dynamic fascinates me, and I would love to know how it works. I just want to know how it works. I'm not trying to be weird about your. We already know about the gross sex stuff. We know about that. I just want to know, like, can you tell me how you're? I also.
But do
I
we know
find
enough?
Well, I don't know. Like Bill and Hillary, I want to know how it works. I really do. Like, how does this work? Because
I'm wondering.
that dude's still doing other stuff. Bill's
Like
still out there.
most like controlling guys
Tearing
like
it up.
Vince, like I said, like Andre probably like Vince was the boss and he knew it with Andre. I think maybe the only person that probably is not afraid of Vince at all is Linda. Like I bet she's just like, don't shut the fuck, don't do that. Like I bet it's just like that, like just annoyance. Like whenever he does something, she has to call him. She's like, "Hey, why are you fucking up, man?" Like, and then he's like, "I'm sorry." I bet she's the only one that he like tells to. Like, "Sorry, Linda, don't yell at me." She's like, "Well, I wouldn't have to yell at you, wouldn't you? For weren't so dumb. Like, why? How could you get caught at dinner with another woman? Like, how could you? Like, I bet it's just like that. It's just sterile. Like,
Well,
I'm disappointed. You're being stupid right now. Like, he's like, I know, Linda. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. The first episode is all about like every single person to be like, nobody knows Vince McMahon. Nobody knows Vince. Nobody. I think the only person that actually probably
She was
knows
CEO.
it is
Yeah.
Linda.
Yeah.
And she probably, that's why she got put as like or whatever. She wasn't CEO, but like she was like the president or whatever her position was. She negotiated that, be like, I know where the fucking bodies are buried, Vince. You make me a partner in all this. Otherwise, not only do I walk and take half the money, but I disclose everything.
But it's also amazing too
in
that
a fucking memoir.
even
You
it
know?
seemed from the
business.
very beginning
Yeah.
that she was the like not the brain, like he was the creative brains, but she was the one that held it
CFO,
together.
yeah.
Like
She was
when
the
we
chief
realized that
financial
Linda
officer. It wasn't
McMahon
titled.
had been she was handling the
Right.
money. She was like the chief like money
Mhm.
officer. She was
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had to go to her to be like, I need to spend this money. And she's like, prove to me why you need to fucking spend this money. She was like the ultimate controller. And he's like, I need to. And she's like, tell me why. Like, and I believe that that's like, she's the only one that had him. But he let that happen. Like, I think he knew,
Joe and
I need this.
Joe and I
like,
talked about it.
this
There's
is
a
who I
front side
need.
of
Like,
business,
but I
there's a
think she
back
also
side of
like
business, and
realizes
if you
like
fail on the backside, you're
what
gonna
he was
fail
doing and how
altogether.
brilliant it all
Vince
was. And I
understood
think
the
she's
front
just
side
like,
of
I'm not
business
going
very well,
anywhere.
but
Like, I'm just
Linda,
going to.
for a very long time, I think was definitely to your point, Jess. She was in charge of the money. She was in charge of the money and how everything flowed.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
They're not
people talk about
normal.
Linda. I bet
Vince
she's
had
just
it-
disgusted
normal.
in him, and I'm like, no, like we as
No.
normal people who live our normal lives or
Right.
whatever, yes, we feel
don't get it.
disgusted about
We don't
certain
get it.
things, right?
Yeah.
But they don't. They're that famous and they were so successful at what they did because they don't have the same reality that we do at all. So it's just like, yeah,
Well,
it's a
same
minor
mindset.
talk with them.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an understood thing. Like, that's what I mean.
you
Like
just
when
took a
something
whole
big
day
blows
out of
up,
my
I bet
time.
she's like
Yeah,
mildly
TMZ
bothered.
won't
Like,
stop calling
God,
me.
like
Thanks,
I got
dickhead.
reporters calling
Like,
me.
yeah.
Thanks, Vince. And he's
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
Fuck. Like,
geez.
you know,
Can you just wait till the
Yelling at
cameras
me.
are off for you?
It's like old times.
Yeah.
sound like Stephanie, always yelling at me.
Acting like a bitch like Shane.
No, that's
Right.
yeah, no, that's actually a brilliant like he was so revolutionary and visionary and all of the
Someone
other
has
stuff,
to show the
licensing and
funds, Joe.
TV
They
deals
have to
and,
show the
like,
funds to be able to say,
talent
yeah, we
and
can
the
make
creative.
this work.
There would have
And he
been no
wasn't doing
time for
that.
him to do the money side.
Yeah.
There's no time for him.
Hello.
And
How
the
are you?
paperwork
Yeah.
and the doing it properly. Because once a
Mhm.
business gets a certain size, the federal government's like, take a look at you real quick. Like they never had any tax
Yeah.
scandals or anything
That-
like that ever. Like they were always like
Yeah.
That
squeaky
whole
clean. I
story
think that was
ever
Linda.
came
I
out
think she was just like,
on
nope,
there.
like we have to do this paperwork wise incredibly fucking clean, Vince. Like, that's why
Yeah.
I believe that's
Well,
why he got caught. Like when the money came out that he was misappropriating funds or whatever, like it came out that way because they were so good at being squeaky
Yeah.
clean. So
Yeah.
any weird thing that
Everything
popped
was
out, it's like,
recorded. Yep.
well, how did that happen? Like, nothing ever happens with our money. How the fuck did that happen? And he's like, I hired a janitor,
Yeah.
promoted that person to president. It's like, you should have done that.
Just
That's the
fix
dumbest thing. They're not qualified for that. And you know that. And you should have known that that was going to piss people off. I don't
Right.
care. Linda, fuck. Like, it's just that kind of, I don't know.
I gave our truth a $2
We're
million
not
bonus.
like,
What do you
yeah,
got?
we're not
Robert.
private anymore, Vince. You're public. Public schmublic.
Yeah.
Linda, can I go? Like, he's just annoyed by it.
Those
I
are
got
boring.
brought a rewrite for the eighth
Yeah, I
time.
know. Yeah.
I don't get that either.
Funny, but
For the
I
eighth
do
fucking time,
find it
right?
funny though that like he would have used company funds. Like he's got his own money. Why would
I
he
know.
just use his own money?
There has to be something to it.
Why would he
that-
use company
that
funds?
part-
Well, I guess
that
for the
part is
payroll, right?
easy
He
to
had to
find
use
out,
the
but-
payroll, I
but
guess.
the
I don't know.
NDA
Yeah,
is
like
could have
he
handled
had to
personally,
hire her as that
honestly.
position, but she was not qualified at all.
So
And so people started finding out that like she doesn't fucking do anything.
I'm with
Like
I'm
you telling
with
me
you,
Vince
bro.
doesn't have
That's
$3 million sitting in his couch cushions?
I do not.
Because
Sir.
in the reference,
He's really
in the
broke.
reference
I
of
am
a
broke.
$1 billion company, like
Yeah, like
even,
he's
even
like
the-
he's
even
actually
in
just,
reference of $1 billion.
he's like, I spent
gambling
so much
problem.
on these
Imagine,
on
yeah.
these ties.
9 million, 12 million.
He's like, I need
It's
another
easy
rush.
to track. That's a lot of money in chunk transactions that are not based upon gate, based upon PLE, based upon monthly revenues scales.
Oh,
that
yeah.
are just paid out to random individuals that aren't
Yeah, well-
employees. That's pretty easy to figure out. Like it's just. I don't know. I'm not trying. I don't. There's so much about it that I don't understand. I don't get it.
Yeah.
So like I'm good at so many things, but this guy can't gamble well. Like
Yeah.
he fucking loses money at gambling.
Jeez.
Fuck, like he just can't get
That's
it
why I
right.
begged
Like,
Shane to stab
damn
me. I
it.
want to die.
this guy has a gambling problem. I don't know. Linda has all my money. You get $100 a week, Vance, for your allowance. Come on, $100.
That's why they wanted to start allowing DraftKings to bet on wrestling matches so Vince could finally win.
I'm so
cover the
glad
spread.
one
Okay,
that
I
he's
think-
not there
just
for
need a
that.
little help.
I think
I had a
that
little-
Undertaker's gonna win this one.
If I had a
said
little
before.
cash injection from this gambling thing, I
probably
would.
not going to happen. But like at least now with Triple H, they're not going to revert. They're not, and they don't tell people what's going to happen. So if they're going to do that, you're more likely to be able to make a decent wager. But I think that's like the worst idea ever. You know, it's just.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it could never happen to wrestling
How can
because
you
like
wait?
they're never going to put a decision under lock and key, like, you know what I mean, and not change it. Like, so they would have to have
Right.
another security level put in place if people are gambling on them legally. Like, they would have to put something in a lockbox, and a third party that has nothing to do holds all of the results. Like, and then that you have to play it out. Like, wrestling can't live like that. Like, they have to
Nah,
change
yeah.
with the crowd
No.
or who's over. Like,
Mhm.
it wouldn't work. Like, it just wouldn't work. And then if you're gambling
I
on
mean,
like who's going to win and everybody
Yeah.
knows the results, it's like, I mean, you would win more than you would lose because, like, you know.
I mean, it's hard enough for the NFL to keep it secret what they're scripting every week, you know?
I don't imagine some of the
Yeah,
bets
this is overtly scripted
out.
in your face. Yeah, this is right in your face scripted. I would bet on like over-unders of like, pissed. I think that Vince tore up the Raw script on Monday morning.
Yeah.
20 times before it got written. And they're like,
it's weird what gets us going, though, as Marks.
Like, I would bet on that.
We're like Marks in a good way.
How many steak wraps Vince has on a Thursday?
What time? How
many steak wraps did Vince have today on a Friday? There's no way Vince had any less than 10 steak
what the hell is that?
And they're like, he did in fact have 10 Jess. I'm like, fuck yeah.
They actually showed a picture of them opening the.
There's no way that Vince starts lifting iron anytime. Like, he is 401 on the dot.
In the fucking middle of the night.
359. I'm like, God damn it. Like, yeah. I would love to gamble now. Like, they should have a live camera wherever he lives right now. I just want to gamble and bet on things that he does.
That's how you can make money.
Oh, speaking of, do a podcast. There was a hysterical picture of Vince, like circa like 1984. Like, they had been just working. Linda tells Vince, like, you need to go on vacation. So Vince goes to like the Bahamas or something like that. And they show a picture of him, and he's totally like fucking ripped. I mean, he's like jacked up, and he's in the tiniest little Speedos ever, and he's just like.
Yeah.
like on like a boat. You're like, first of all, that's awesome that you're that jacked. No one would have ever guessed that, you know. And he said, why the fuck are you wearing these tiny little red Speedos? It was like Kevin Sullivan Speedos. Like, oh,
I like it.
Maybe Kevin Sullivan was hanging out with him on the boat.
Kevin Sullivan's in the backdrop. Yeah, Kevin Sullivan's in the background.
I was thinking about it.
He was part of events.
Time. What are you gonna do about it? Nothing. Because now we're gonna.
You did vacation though.
Yeah, he was. There's no way he was not calling from the Bahamas. He's not like, Bruce, it's Vince. Don't you fucking tell Linda that I called you. If you don't fucking send me that script over by fax, I'm gonna fucking murder you. And he's like, I'm sorry, Vince. I'm going. You do exactly what I say.
We probably went on vacation around Thanksgiving when NWA had the first Star Kid. He's like, that's what I gotta do, but I gotta do it better.
Yeah.
Did you?
He went on vacation to birth another idea where he was trying to like underhand somebody else.
The new drug policy he's going to enforce.
I'm going to fuck Crockett up.
Did you guys see that?
Like, that's not.
He talks about the new drug policy he's trying to enforce, and he's typing. He's like, we believe that we're going to have the highest standard of policies of any entertainment industry. And then he goes, he just like made this goofy, stupid face because he hated every bit of it so much. He's like. I'm like, oh my God, like, where did you even find this? Like, he was just so disgusted with the entire message because he had to do it because it was after the trial. And then people were dying, you know, in the early, like, late 90s, early 2000s because they were taking roids. And AJ's like, oh my God, can you just get me the raw script? Yeah.
Taking care of wrestlers is boring.
Yeah, boring.
I can't wait for you to see it
right now. He's like,
those are the little things.
Like, I got a whole line of people outside waiting to come in to wrestle. I need these ones for this.
Blah, blah. They're not happy.
It's like Tony Stark's dad, you know, talking about new technology. And they're getting drunk while they're doing the taping. He's like, who would like to see my ass? And it's like, that's what he's doing. Like, he's just so he's so mad about it. He doesn't want to do it. It's very reminiscent to the Warrior trying to issue the apology while he's the Warrior character.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm doing this. It's like, it's just, you can see Vince doesn't want to do it. Doesn't want to do any of it. Someone forgot to tell him, this is Vince. It's a work. You got to talk about the drug policy. It's important. We got to get this off our ass. And
it's a work. We're working.
Pritchard, like, Vince, we got to do this. Like, shut up.
Vince trying to use.
He's so bad about it. Though. Fuck you, Bruce. Yeah. And then he went to Bruce. You were right.
Fuck you, Bruce. That's my favorite. Fuck you, Bruce. My favorite story. God damn.
I think probably the part that pisses you off more than anything is that, like, when they're talking about, like, he's like got this revolutionary idea for like WrestleMania and WrestleMania 3, and he's doing the work, and it's like, and he's like 38, and you're like, what was I doing at 38? Not putting together like a $1 billion corporation, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I know, like, people just want to, and I'm not, again, if he did anything wrong, he should paid to the fullest extent of the law. Not suggesting that, but it is fascinating to re-talk about him because like I do kind of like casual fans are annoying, but like when people like at my work or something, like, did you know that there was a doc? Of course I knew. Like my mom even had the gall to text me.
Thanks
like,
for
the Vince
thanks for
McMahon
telling
documentary's
me.
coming out on Netflix. I'm like, oh, you're the first. Like I didn't know that there was a Vince McMahon. Yeah, and I was like, of course I fucking like
whole story about it. Like,
you mean the guy that
I guess
the guy
he
that
owned
announced
the
all this time
WWF?
was the
I
owner?
guess.
I'm like,
I was like,
yeah, he was.
totally.
God, yes, he was.
Oh, wow, I didn't
Actually,
know
you knew
that.
this.
He's the one who worked for
What?
Meltzer.
Did you know that
Good
Andre
wrestling
did
journalist.
lose before the Hogan match? Yes.
Did you know that Andre was slammed
died
like
because
3
of this.
times before? Yeah, I did.
And he died because of the slam?
Yeah, I know all of this stuff. That's crazy, but that was just in the documentary.
It was just a delayed effect, a 3-year delayed effect.
He died from a body slam. It's so horrible.
Yeah, brother. That's why I almost got 11 years.
So, like...
They just said it was in self-defense, so that's why it was going to be a light sentence, brother.
They believe all the... And even though I think people are, like, shitting on this documentary a little bit because... Of course, Vince volunteering for the first like 80% or 85% or whatever before the accusations came out. Like, of course, it was going to be somehow, even just his presence.
It was controlled.
It a certain way.
But
Vince will not allow himself to be bullied by an interviewer. Like, so it's like, no matter what, it had a Vince
casuals will
funk to
absolutely
it, like
love
in the
it. And
beginning
I just want you to
parts.
think
Like,
about it like
yeah,
this.
Vince was never going to.
If you could watch this documentary, like you watch Tiger King, not knowing shit about Tiger King, like you didn't know about it. You didn't know what he was doing. You didn't know what I didn't even know. I didn't know there was tiger.
I'm gonna start watching it.
Cub petting and all this stuff, and you know Cheryl Bastion's husband's in a dumpster somewhere, and or she buried him under the house, and all these crazy things. If I was able to watch this documentary, going fresh into it like a good Tiger King, like a casual's going to, they are going to absolutely love this documentary. It is going to be so fresh and amazing to them. But we know too much. We know too much. We know too much about it. But I still enjoyed it.
Yeah,
he does, and he's so hunched over. He's
hearing the stories.
He's slowly like just.
He looks like a Muppet
imploding into himself. Like he's just.
He looks like a Muppet.
Like he's clawing in.
Like
it's
shitty
horrible.
Mustache and like
so bad, but.
He's like, huh? Like his eyebrows are painted on. He's like, who, me? Like, yeah, you. Like nobody else is talking to you.
Oh, you still think I'm Vince?
It was consensual.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't, the statute of limitations gave out. So good thing, right?
It was.
That was a hysterical line.
It's like, you fucking said that, you asshole! Like you fucking monster.
I mean, it's okay, right?
And by the way, at the end of that episode, Jess,
I did nothing wrong. But if I did, it's too late anyway. Who the fuck talks like that? Like, unless you did it, like,
innocent person. Come on.
Well, no, they reopened in New York. They reopened cases where they didn't have to have a
that means
statute of limitations.
Yeah,
and
in 2022, I think
he had to settle. He paid her millions of dollars. That was that female referee, I believe. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yep, he settled. He settled with that too. I didn't know. I was like,
because the Janelle stuff's still going.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You know what, referee?
Nothing happened.
Rita.
No.
Nothing happened. So, like a teenager.
I don't remember hearing about that at the time, but like,
I didn't either. Yeah,
I think it was just
they barely talked about Patterson.
I think old poor Pat took the brunt of
crazy.
the sexual.
That's one
assault,
thing that my wife and I talked about in the documentary.
But even
he was saying how bad it was going to be for Vince, and I thought it was going to be way worse. I thought it was going to be way worse for him.
That's weird.
It wasn't.
I guess. Well, you know what you said. I think what we all wanted, and I think that's why wrestling fans were disappointed. We wanted him to talk about his relationships with Linda and Pat and what that meant in the early days. Like that would just excite me to no end to hear his perspective. A guy who was running the ship, like. This is my relationship with Bruce. This is how I nurtured Bruce and like mentored him. This is what I expected from Bruce. Like, I would love to hear all that. Like, because you could agree or disagree. But again, Dave, you said it before. The casual audience are going to be like, scandal.
Yeah.
What kind of a person was he? Is he
a
dick? Like,
just
it's like that's all they want. But But I want the truth to come out
and
and he suffer the fullest extent of law if he broke it. But what I'm saying is like, why not make a documentary that, I mean, he chose wrestling to kind of revolutionize business in America in a way. And so like the fact that they're not talking about that when they talk about I don't even know if that's more of a story about pro wrestling. That's Vince. Like,
Yeah, they needed.
I would
Yeah,
love a documentary about that. I want to hear what he
WWE
thought
needs
about
to
the
needs to
industry,
make that a documentary.
why he chose wrestling, why when he saw his dad's company,
and
what was it that made you want to buy it? You saw something that nobody else saw. Well, I saw this and like I want that, and then it's a
yeah.
spider, you know, like what was it like, you know, booking a year-long storyline with Hogan and Savage? What was like, you know, what did you realize that it was to become like the benchmark for what the Bloodline storyline is now? Like, well, yeah, you know, I always wanted to do that, and I think I would love that, you know, like I would love for us
True,
to
Joe.
hear that from
True.
him.
True.
Well, and it's quite possible that they did talk about that in the interviews.
Yeah,
but
and then
that's
we're
not
not
what
going to get
Yeah,
that
Netflix is
now.
and
showing.
right, that's
We
a
rather
good point. Yeah.
scandals.
Or at
You know,
least one part, you know,
and
one part should have been about
and,
wrestling, you know.
and I think that's why Vince put out that statement of they have chosen to put like say Vince McMahon and Mr. McMahon are the same person when really they were Mr. McMahon is a character and Vince McMahon is
Well, try to
who Vince McMahon is, but like Netflix is definitely going to skew it in a way that makes it darker or more scandalous, or it's going to put more eyes on.
Maybe I'm in the minority on that, but I would love like the questions I would ask him wouldn't be what everybody thinks that they would ask Vince. I would just be like, so WrestleMania 2, that was silly. Like, why would you do? What did you learn from WrestleMania 2, and why didn't you do a stadium for 2? Why was your first thought to do 3 different locations? You know, I want to hear if he's
Something
like,
different.
well, I was production sick. I was so into my production that I was like, what if I overproduced this moment 3 different arenas? Like maybe he felt that way, and then he's like, no, we'll just go back to the standard dome, you know, next year or
He
whatever.
said, well, that
Like
didn't
it's
work.
crazy that
what
like
he said.
he
Yeah.
chose that WrestleMania.
They briefly talk about that a little bit
Right.
in one of the episodes.
Yeah, and that's so fascinating.
It was just basically like we're gonna try something that nobody's ever done, and then they did it, and they're like, we're never doing that ever again.
But and what confidence he had, like in his ability to stay connected with the fans, and I hate to say it, I'm not trying to overgive him credit, but the
No.
power of Hogan, that he was so like in
Brother.
'86, he could be like, I could fuck around a bit, right? He only had one WrestleMania before that. Will 2 be successful? And that's the chance you take. That's a ballsy fucking
Yeah.
move. Like, you know, like
Yeah.
that's really ballsy to do that.
Well,
Instead
then
of going right
then
to
even
a stadium or a dome for 2, he said, I'm going to come from 3
well,
different locations. That's a crazy thought.
and
That's super
There's
crazy.
3
and
of
then to
them.
take and then to have 2 kind of not be successful, and then 3 go.
We just lost him briefly.
Okay, no,
So
we're
he's
gonna
having
go.
trouble.
We're gonna go way big. We're
Keep
gonna
going,
fill
Joe.
a stadium that's no one's ever filled before, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, I heard him say, "Uh-oh."
Yeah.
We're gonna fill a stadium that no one's ever done before, and you're like, that's fucking ballsy too. Jesus,
Well,
like,
You know, yeah,
just
that's true.
to
And he did that
have
with
that
everything.
have
with,
that level of
with his own
confidence or
streaming,
whatever,
you know, platform, and then the public
to
trading, and then
go
the
do
emergency
it.
KO and everything else. Always huge steps and always big risks. But going back to you guys talking about and I know we're kind of over. Maybe this will close it. But the one thing that fascinated me, and not in a good way, I was like, whoa, this guy is just disturbed, was you guys talked about the personalities of Mr. McMahon versus Vince McMahon versus just Vince. Vince actually said in the interview, he's like, the thing that's really weird for me, I think they were just chatting. There was no question that was being asked. He's like, there's like 2 computers, sometimes 3 in my head. And one computer is telling me what to tell you, and one computer is telling me what not to tell you. And he's like, what's the third one? He's like, when you listen to it, he's like, well, it's pretty out of control, and it's usually very sexual in nature. Basically what he said. And I was just like, he said that. Yeah, it's in the doc. 100% in the doc. And it tells you, and what's really sad about that is that
He
they
said that.
obviously use
He
that,
said that
to twist and go into the current
in the doc?
allegations and stuff. Yeah. So he literally said three up to 3 computers, one of them no one sees, very sexual in nature.
twist.
And it's having a lot of fucking fun, basically.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. That kind of explains a lot, you know. So I don't know. Do we
Everybody has those three computers though. Like if you think about it, like what do I actually think versus what do I want the world to think?
But
versus,
who's been more successful?
Versus all of the secret desires that I have that I don't tell anybody. Like we all have that. I mean, like Vince is just. I mean, that was brave of him.
Still being able to act on
that's actually brave of him to say that.
And not have anybody find out. Like eventually you're gonna get found out, but he didn't get found out for 40 years. Like who's been more successful about keeping the stuff he wants to keep to himself, not even to his family. Like eventually I get to know people. We're gonna tell him. Go ahead. Sorry.
I would say anybody.
Right.
I was going to say there's a lot of people that have been successful in that. They all went to Epstein Island and had a ball,
Diddy Island.
Or Diddy Island, yeah. But
Diddy Oil.
yeah.
But again,
Diddy,
all those
Epstein,
people are like
emphatically
successful.
Anybody that made a sexual carnival?
Definitely.
They all hung out with the same crew.
Did some horrible things to get there. I just want to hear a good billionaire story where they're just super clean and love their family and don't beat their dog or anything. That'd be fantastic. Can you give me one? Just give me one. That doesn't die of colon cancer. That doesn't die of colon cancer at like 35 or whatever. It'd be great. Just give me one of those. I just want to believe in the dream.
Maybe up until WrestleMania.
Believe in the dream. That's all I want. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, very much looking forward to watching the rest of the.
Yeah, I need to start it.
It's not hard to get through.
Seeing what's going on.
If you don't know about wrestling, you will still enjoy it immensely. You probably enjoy it.
If you haven't checked it out, go and check it out on Netflix.
We knew about 80% of it, but yeah, it's fantastic. Jess. Yeah, I was gonna see if Jess would see us at the matches. I don't know if his audio quit on us.
I guess we're gonna see.
So we will we'll see you at the matches.
Matches next week.